Yo, what is up there, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie, also known as Driveway Built 460. In today's episode, we are going to be working with something pretty cool and pretty special. If you guys already have noticed, we have today's sponsor, which is Dr. KDSS, also known as Dom. Dom sent over this really awesome rear KDSS sway bar link over to me to test out. This is something that still is relatively new, so it's not going to be released to the public just yet. But I have the opportunity to be the first one to test it out. This is what I'll be installing into my GX, the design. So we can take a closer look. This thing is stout, guys. It looks super durable. It's made out of 7075 billet aluminum, and it's just a lot of things you find in race trucks, right? And so, not that my GX is a race truck, but we always, we don't mind having upgrades that just adds durability to our rides. There is also a uniball. This uniball, it's made by Pro Bearing, so it's also very stout too. So again, shout out to Dom over at Dr. KDSS. I have a lot of his products. I have this KDSS switch. I also have his KDSS clamps for both front and rear sway bars. And I'm also going to be adding another set of clamps to the rear sway bars just to keep everything in line, because I do think it's kind of shifting because the clamps that comes from the factory, they're wearing out. So I bought these to keep everything just sturdy back over there. But I have that. I also have his rear BOTCK kit. That's basically the bolt-on traction control kit. I also have his front sway bar adapters for the KDSS sway bar and also the front KDSS clamps. I have a plethora of things from Dom, so this is nothing new to me. So it's something that I use that's been tried and it's been tested and it works. And so this is no different. I can only imagine this is going to be much more better for my GX. We are going to install the new clamps onto the sway bar. We are also going to install the new KDSS sway bar link to my GX along with the hardware that comes with it. And he also included all these patches, which they're all going to go back into the GX. So shout out to Dom over at Dr. KDSS. You are the man. Well, let's go ahead and jump on this install and get this going. It should be a really quick one. Tools that I will be using is going to be my 14, 15, and also 19 millimeter sockets. I'll be using my electric ratchet here along with my stubby. And then to finish things off, once we're all done with the bolts, we're going to torque things up with my torque wrench. I forgot to mention we're also going to be using a 12 millimeter socket and also my 10 millimeter wrench, because we have to open up the KDSS valves for this install. So first thing is first, we want to make sure that the GX is going to be on a flat and even surface. The second thing that we want to do is come over to the driver's side and locate the KDSS cover, which is right here. And that's going to require the 12 millimeter sockets to take off that cover. Alright, so it's just two 12s. And then once you have those two bolts off, you lift up and out comes the cover. I've already made markings on the bolts here. You can see the black lines going down the 6 o'clock position. So we have 1 and we have 2. Okay, working our way back over to the rear section now. 1 and 2. So what you don't want to do is back this all the way out. If you back this up and it ends up bleeding this and it ends up opening up the valves and you have oil come out, you're going to be in some trouble. Alright, so you're probably thinking, why do we need to replace this sway bar link over here? And the answer to that is, this is the weak link of the KDSS system. There has been documented issues where folks have been on the trails, just regular trail stuff, and they've bent their rear link. And this could be detrimental. So this can cause a lot of issues because it's hooked up to the rear axle back over here, as you guys can tell. And so this whole system plays a vital role. So you can disconnect this and it could work out fine for you, but it does cause a lot of body roll. So KDSS is a pretty sophisticated system, but it's also very simple. It's all controlled by hydraulic fluid. And back over here is your KDSS ram cylinder over here. And this is what allows the sway bars to articulate up and down when it flexes, right? And so I'm not going to go into the full details about what KDSS does, but a lot of us KDSS owners, we know what this is and what this does. So I never thought about this at all. It didn't really occur to me. But because I do have some mishaps and whatnot, we're gonna go ahead and take care of this today. So shout out to Dom for providing this really durable link over. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into it and change out that rear sway bar link. And one other thing, guys, so the new Dr. KDSS sway bar link, it's longer too, so it actually will match up with the length of not just the factory one, but it also will match up with the KDSS spacer too. So that means we're going to remove this spacer out from its spot, and we're going to use just only the rear sway link by itself, and that's going to remove this guy here. But on the hydraulic side over here, this is going to stay in place. So just a heads up. So I already have one of the clamps here from Dr. KDSS, but we are gonna go ahead and add two to the one back over here, because if you guys take a look, my KDSS ram cylinder here, it's slightly shifted over here to this side. What I don't want to happen is this shifts all the way over, and that'll compromise my KDSS system. So that's the reason why I got the clamps. But we're gonna go and place two clamps on each side to really properly secure this bad boy in place. All right, so for this step, we are going to be raising the sway bar. Now, this is going to reduce tension from the KDSS drop spacers, so we can remove them safely. All right, so I'm grabbing my stubby. This is going to be a 14 millimeter on both sides. So there goes that bolt, and the bracket comes right off. We're hopping over to the passenger side, and we're going to work on the passenger side bolts now. And two. Okay, so with those two brackets out of the way, we can lower the sway bar, and that will release everything else. We can take off the spacer, the drop spacer, that comes off. And now we can work on getting the sway link here off. Alright, so all we have left now for this sway bar end link is gonna be the 19 millimeter nut up here. So the nut should be loose. So let's take off the bolt. And then the arm just comes right out. Alright, you guys, so we got the OEM sway bar link out, and we're comparing it now to Dr. KDS's rear link. So you guys can see the size difference. I mean, this is much more robust and thicker compared to this link over here. So we shouldn't have any issues with any potential mishaps with this bending or breaking on us for trail use. I did pull out the KDSS spacer so we can take a look at the length and we can compare the two. So you guys can see they're pretty much identical. Here's the OEM link here, the bushing. The OEM bushing, it still has some play. It does move around. And you can hear that. And let's take a look at Dr. KDS's rear link here. The unit ball, a little more stiffer than the OEM one, but it moves around freely just like so. But alright, let's go ahead and put this back onto the GX. Alright guys, so we're going to be adding some Loctite to the main bolt that holds on to the sway link here. So I'm going to add this for just to make sure it doesn't come off after the installation. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and install this bad boy into place. Slides right in. I'm gonna grab the nuts. Alright, so nuts in place. I'm not gonna torque this down just yet. I'm gonna make sure I put on the sway bar onto the link here, bolt it up, and once I have that done, I'll torque this last, and we're gonna torque this down from 80 or to 95 foot-pounds. Alright, so my next step is, if you guys don't have the KDSS clamps, don't worry about this, skip this step. This is just gonna be my use, so I'm gonna replace, or not replace, I'm going to go ahead and move this clamp here back on this side and use the bronze ones on the outside. So we're gonna take these and just swap them. Alright guys, so I went ahead and got the clamps all cleaned up. Used some rubbing alcohol, clean the surfaces, reapply the double side tape to them, and it's on both sets now. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and install the plate and hardware back onto the sway bar link here. And remember guys, arrow facing you. So there's one there, and then nut goes on top. Alright, so we have that. So I want to make sure this still moves freely back and forth so we can put the clamps back on here. Alright, so let's put on the other side. This will feed right through the bracket and also through to the drop spacer, and then on top right over here. Never, 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 and I'll repeat this again, never, never use your impact in this part here. You have such a high chance to cross thread these threads here, and if you cross thread them, you turn a simple 20-minute job into a 3+ hour nightmare. So keep that in mind. Once you have them hand threaded, you can go ahead and safely now use your impact. Okay. And this should still be pretty loose, so we can shift this from left to right and put the clamps back on. Before we start clamping things down with the clamps, you want to make sure that these arms, these links, they are as vertical as they can be. Looks pretty good to me. So let's go ahead and put on the clamps. All right, so that's done there. So top side is going to be this one here. That's going to be this guy that has those type of threads, and down here is where the bolt goes into. So this is going to be the bottom side. So top and bottom, feed that through, thread that in. Alright, so that one's also threaded back in too. Alright, so a little pro tip for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and grab this quick grip here, open this up, and I'm going to clamp this as close as I can to sandwich the clamp against the KDSS cylinder here. So let's go ahead and start clamping things down. And what this just basically does is just gets this right up against the cylinder, so I don't have to worry about it shifting on me while I cinch this down. And then you guys can see, as long as I'm just doing this, it'll keep that right in place. Now what I do want to stress is, once you guys get it to where it's super tight, keep it right there. Don't do anything more, because what happens is you'll end up stripping the Allen head. So just keep that in mind. So it may not close all the way, and that's perfectly fine. So we got one side in. All right, that's good enough there. This one just a little bit more. And that's it. Nothing else more than that. Okay. So we have that one done. We can release that. And let's work on the other one. Okay, and that's good there. Let's back this off. Little gaps here, and that's okay. We can take off the quick grip. All right, so clamps are in place. Don't judge me on the two different colors, because right now it's all about function over form. As much as I want things to match up, it is what it is. At least they're on, and they keep all of my components straight and also aligned and in position. All right, so we're gonna go ahead, work on the rear. We're gonna work on the link over here now. The top nut is actually a 17 mil, and then the bottom bolt is gonna be a 15 millimeters. So let's just torque this back down to 33 foot-pounds. And there's two. All right, so all we have left now is the top nut for the link up here. All right, so I got my 19 millimeter socket and also have a 19 millimeter wrench to hold the bolt here from spinning. Let's go ahead and torque this down. I'm going to torque this down to 95 foot-pounds. Again, we're gonna go ahead and mark the bolt. So I don't know about you guys, but whenever I do my own work, I like to make sure everything is marked so I know that things are not shifting on me. And if they are, at least I know. Alright guys, so this is basically the last step. We're gonna close the valves back up. Okay, there's one. We have two valves, right? So let's close the other one. So that one's closed. And then let's put the cover back on. Alright, and the cover is back on. Let's see. I know where I'm going to put this. Right up there. I don't have that many patches like some of y'all do, but something is better than nothing. Cool. So that completes the install. So our clamps are already in place, and then the main star of the show is the rear sway bar link. Take a look at that, guys. That thing is just super beefy. Super beefy. Big shout out again. Big shout out to Dom, aka Dr. KDSS. Alright guys, so real quick here. Who is this for? Anybody who has a lift, 2 inches and above, 4Runner or GX460. This is for you guys. Doesn't matter if you guys are doing any kind of Baja, jumping, or even just trail use. This arm, this sway bar link here, this really stout and thick bad boy there, will just keep everything from bending and being damaged back there. So that's who that's for. So again, any one of you guys who's lifted above 2 inches, for you guys, this is going to be a must. Now, Speaking with Dom, I know you guys are thinking, all right, man, Eddie, when is this thing going to be released? That I don't know. For now, I know that Dom's working on getting this done in the near future. So if you guys want to know when this drops, follow Dom on Instagram and YouTube. I've already listed his information down below in the descriptions.
One eternity later.
Good morning, guys. We're back in the garage. We are continuing the KDSS saga. I got something that was sent over from Dom over at Dr. KDSS, and we're gonna go ahead and finish up this install. It's gonna be part of the KDSS system that's new, that should be coming out soon. But we've done the rears, and now we're working on the front. And then what's pretty awesome is the guy sent me out a surprise part. So I'm gonna put the camera here, give you guys a moment to figure out what that is. But I already have a good idea exactly what this part is gonna be. So shout out to Dom, hooked this up, super cool. I mean, Christmas obviously came early, and just want to give a shout out to Dom, Dr. KDSS. Big thanks. But let's go ahead and get this unboxed, see what's inside here, and if you guys don't already know what this is, you're gonna find out. All right, fam, let's get this opened up. Man, it's cold. I don't know exactly. Super cold out. All right, more stickers. And then, dude, here is the part itself. It's got a Zerk fitting right there so we can grease our bushings. Yo, but check that out, you guys. This sucker is beefy. Close up on his Zerk fitting. Very nice. Hardware that comes with it. And let's see what's in the surprise box. This is what you guys have been waiting for, right? All right, I have to widen up the shot here because this is a pretty big and long item. So let's go ahead and see what this is all about. I really ought to get me a heater in my garage because I have a lot of things coming up, a lot of projects that I have to deal with, and it's just too cold to stay in a garage, to work in a garage. All right, so I think that's pretty much it. Let's see if I can get this opened. Okay, so let's see. It's exactly like what I thought it was gonna be. It's a new Panhard bar, adjustable Panhard bar. Let me get all this stuff out of the way so you guys can see what it looks like. Cool, so it's out of the package. Let's throw this out of the way and take a look. Dude, it's freaking beautiful. Take a look at this. Dr. KDSS. I think he already torqued it down for us, so I shouldn't have to adjust that by any means, but wow. I mean, I've seen this thing on his 4Runner on a website, but to see it in person, it's a thing of beauty. This is the engineering that was put into this. All right, let's go ahead and get this installed. Sheesh. Cool, so let's go ahead and grab some tools. Let's see here. We're gonna need a 17, 19 millimeter socket. I'm gonna grab my stubby back over here. This is gonna help me take off these bolts a lot easier. And then we're also going to need a long reach wrench here. So it should be a 19 that we're gonna use. All right, let's get down to it. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get my floor jack. I'm gonna compress and raise up this sway bar over here. I took the liberty of removing my front skid plate so you guys can see exactly what I'm doing here. So all for you guys, so you guys can see how this is all gonna work out. Let's just raise this up. This will help relieve the tension on that fixed arm. All right, so I think that's good there. Okay, so we are underneath the vehicle, and I'm gonna grab, should be 17 millimeters here on these bolts. And there's two, and down comes the bracket. Very important. If you guys take a look, there's an arrow that's pointing towards the front of the vehicle. Don't put this backwards. So it's gotta be in this direction right here with the arrow. And then I'm going to lower the jack, and that'll bring the sway bar down. Alright, so now that's coming down and it's loose now, we're good to go. We're gonna focus on the 19 millimeter bolt that's holding the arm up here. This is the fixed arm. You guys can look, it's not moving, it barely wiggles. So the new link should be much more flexible and allow movement, so that way the sway bar can move forward and backwards more freely. And that just means more flex. Alright, so let's work on that upper bolt up there on the fixed arm. And it's going to be a 19 millimeter bolt. Look at now it rotates, right? So the idea is with the new link, it should be much more flexible and free to move the way how it is compared to how it was where it was just fixed. So let's go ahead and take this off. Bolts out and slide out the fixed arm, the link, and out it comes. All right, so I do have to grease the Zerk fitting here. So let's go ahead and get this in there. And let's go ahead and pump some grease into it. Cool. So cool. All right, guys, so let's take a look and see what the differences are. Obviously, the one over to the right is going to be the OEM, and the one to the left is going to be the Dr. KDSS new billet sway bar end link. And you can just look at how much beefier this is compared to that. All right, so we got our 19 millimeter bolt here. I am going to apply some red Loctite onto the bolt. All right, so we have it all there now. Should be enough to keep it in place. All right, so we are reinstalling the new sway bar end link on here. So real quick, there's going to be a side that's going to have a concave side. This is the side we don't want to go in there. We want to have the flat side go in. So just a heads up. And then let's go ahead and put this back on. Just slide it back into place, just like so. And remember, it has to be the flat side, not the concave side. And then we also place the thread locker on here. And then we're going to torque this down to 90 foot-pounds. All right, 90 foot-pounds. Check this out. It moves freely, even though it's torqued down to 90 foot-pounds. If you guys remember earlier, I couldn't even move it. It barely even wiggled. And that'll tell me if this bolt has moved from its position. Go ahead and raise the floor jack back up. It's going to raise the sway bar and then reconnect to the new end link. Just like so. Fits like a glove. Looks really good. All right. Let's go ahead and put the bracket back on. Get this threaded in. Remember that bracket, it's got to be facing forward towards the engine, right? And not back. So first bolt's going in. And then hard to see, but I did put a lock washer up on top, and then there's going to be a nut that we're going to put up there too, which is right here. And then we're going to torque this down to 70 foot-pounds. All right, we're torquing these down at 70 foot-pounds each. Yo. I'm gonna mark my bolts here. And since we have an open end on the other side, we also want to make sure to mark on that too. So let's see here. I think this is a good spot. Just right there. Cool. So that way I can visually see exactly if they ever do move, I can see it from there. You always want to make sure you mark that. All right, guys, we are in the rear. We're going to take off this bolt here. It should be an 18 millimeter bolt on my BOTCK kit here. And then we're also going to make our way over to the end over here, and that should be a 19 millimeter bolt there. Once we have that, the bar should come right out. So 19. All right, so the nut is out. All right, so that nut back here ended up being a 21 millimeter. So just a heads up. All right, so I think that's loose. The nut's right here. Again, it's a 21 mil nut. There we go. That took some finesse, but we got the bolt out. Take out that 19 mil there as well. So it's going to be both of these what we have to take off, because the track bar is sandwiched between the kit here and also the factory frame back here. So let's go ahead and... Alright, so I had to loosen this bolt here. Got that out. I also loosened the bottom one here too. This is 18 millimeter. Loosen that so I can loosen up the one over here on that. And now I can take off the track bar here. I think it's still a little bit sandwiched between there. But there we go. And it came right out. Okay, so the track bar is coming out. We can pick this up. Just carefully maneuver it around the back over here to the spring, out the axle. And then we'll slide this right out. And there we go. Man, look how this thing is just rusted. Alright, let's get the new one in. So, over to our right is going to be the OEM one. Over to our left is going to be the Dr. KDSS's new Panhard bar. And they're just about the same length from eyelet to eyelet. So let's go ahead and get this installed. So out this way, and then enter in this way, bring it back in. Route this back over. Alright, so that's in there. So is that. Let's get this bolt in place, just to hold everything in place. I went in pretty easy. We like it when things go in easy. Who likes to fight and struggle putting in parts in? I sure don't. And then we'll torque this down to 115 foot-pounds, and the same thing back over to the BOTCK bracket back here. It's a little bit tight right there, but we'll get it in there. Alright, so there's that one. Alright, so I just brought my punch. I'm gonna just snake it back in here and just, there we go. That was just enough to get it to align. I think we're there. I'm gonna just grab my hammer and just kind of pound it back in there. Right on. We're all the way through. Gonna get my nut back here and thread it back over there. Alright, so we're gonna torque this down to 115. My torque wrench is already set up for that. 115, we're good there. Alright, now we're 115 there as well. We're gonna mark our bolts again. And then we'll torque these down. This bolt here and this bolt, we're gonna torque them back down to 105 foot-pounds. Okay, one there. 105 there. And of course, we're gonna mark all of them like I always do. One there. And then one there. Alright, so all the parts are in. This is pretty much a Dr. KDSS all suspension done by Dr. KDSS. Looks really good. BOTCK, adjustable Panhard bar, and the rear link is there. And then let's walk back over to the front, because we have more Dr. KDSS goodies back here too, right? There's that link, the new front link, and of course we have the clamps are all there. Well, and then the sway bar adapters along with the brackets. Very cool. Everything on the vehicle are purpose built, and it just makes my GX flex a lot more easier, and it looks cool. But alright guys, we are done. Dr. KDSS in the house. Don't forget guys, make sure you guys comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel out greatly. So until then guys, I will see you guys on the next adventure. Peace out guys.